Imagine a trench no wider than your shoulders, coal clay pressing in from both sides, the air thick with rot and cordite. Below your boots, mud that hasn't dried in 3 weeks. You haven't slept in 2 days. You're sharing your rations with the rats. And yet, somehow, you adapt. You survive. That is the story of the ordinary World War I soldier, and honestly one of the most extraordinary Fieldcraft case studies in history. Welcome to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Today we go into the forgotten trenches of the Western Front, where men turned desperation into ingenuity. Every improvised shelter, every water trick, every method of staying warm in a waterlogged hole speaks directly to the modern survivalist. These men weren't trained woodsmen. They were farmers, clerks, and students. The war made them experts of the earth. The soldier who survives is not the strongest. He is the one who learns fastest. Observation common among World War I field officers. Building shelter in the earth. The art of the dugout. The most essential fieldcraft skill of the Great War was the dugout, a below-ground living space carved from the earth itself. What began as scraped-out alcoves evolved into sophisticated subterranean rooms reinforced with timber frames, corrugated iron, and sandbags packed with dense clay subsoil that absorbed blast energy far better than loose dirt. The soldiers learned the hard way that drainage was everything. A floor without a forward slope and a wall-side channel would fill within days. They lined floors with duckboards, slatted pallets raised above the mud, a technique still taught in wilderness survival today. In deeper dugouts, fireplace niches cut into clay walls burned small fires and homemade candles of rendered fat. Survival fire-making by any other name. Finding and managing water. The silent killer of the trenches. Water was everywhere and almost none of it was safe. Dysentery and typhoid killed more men in the war's early months than enemy fire did. Soldiers collected rainwater by stretching ground sheets into V-shapes overnight, funneling runoff into canteens. They dug seep wells beside trench walls and lined the bottoms with road gravel as a natural filter, the same gravity filtration bushcraft practitioners use today. Purification tablets served as the frontline iodine solution, and when those ran out, boiling in a mess tin over a shielded flame was the fallback. The hardest learned rule of the entire war: never drink from a shell crater, no matter how thirsty. Bully beef, hardtack biscuits, and tinned jam formed the backbone of trench rations, monotonous, calorie-dense, and, well, often cold. The Tommy cooker, a folding tin stand burning solidified alcohol fuel, was really the soldier's lifeline. When those ran out, perforated bully beef tins burning paraffin-soaked cotton waste became improvised stoves. A hot mess tin of tea in about 8 minutes, flame cupped low to avoid observation, as much a morale tool as a nutritional one. Behind the lines, foraging from abandoned farms added turnips, wild leeks, and foraged mushrooms to the menu. Soldiers with country backgrounds quietly taught city men which roadside plants were edible, passing on survival knowledge that war had made suddenly urgently relevant. Camouflage and concealment. The science of disappearing. By 1916, staying alive meant, well, becoming invisible. Soldiers smeared faces and hands with mud before raids, threaded helmet netting with dried grass and hessian strips, and learned to move only when shadow patterns allowed. A man still in a shell crater with a camouflaged helmet could, honestly, vanish from view at 20 meters. Snipers took this art furthest. Their hides dissolved completely into the background. Rifle barrels wrapped in earth-toned fabric. approach routes kept below ground level to never break the horizon line. Their core discovery, that movement, not color, is what the eye detects first, is the same lesson hunters, trackers, and wildlife photographers rediscover independently to this day. Hygiene and health, staying alive between the battles, trench foot, tissue destruction from sustained cold water exposure, was the war's signature preventable affliction. The countermeasure was Fieldcraft simple, dry feet twice daily, rub with whale oil, never sleep in wet socks. Lice were managed by running candle flames along clothing seams and systematic mutual delousing, a social ritual as much as a medical one. Toothbrushes gave way to salt and ash finger scrubs, an ancient, abrasive technique that genuinely works. Wounds were cleaned with whatever water was available, iodine tincture from the standard field dressing following close behind. These men practiced emergency wilderness medicine daily, and the lessons they accumulated: keep wounds clean, keep extremities dry, protect your sleep, remain the core of survival medicine today. Morale and mental resilience, the fieldcraft of the mind. Survival was never purely physical. The soldiers who endured longest shared a consistent set of mental practices. Routine was the backbone stand to at dawn and dusk, weapon cleaning, the morning tea, rhythms that gave structure to time that might otherwise dissolve into fear. Dark humour held the line where routine couldn't reach, acknowledging horror without surrendering to it. Letters home, a photograph in a tunic pocket, a mouth organ played badly at midnight. Small things fiercely protected. The men who lasted understood what every serious survivalist eventually learns. The mind needs feeding as surely as the body does. Conclusion. What the mud still has to teach us. The soldiers of the First World War did not choose their classroom. That conflict was so catastrophic, so unnecessary in its origins, that historians still argue whether it should ever have been fought. And yet from within that catastrophe, ordinary men, farmers, clerks, students, discovered depths of resourcefulness that no one watching them would have believed possible. They built shelters from nothing, made clean water from contaminated ground, fed themselves at the margins of emptied fields, became invisible in open landscapes, and kept each other sane when everything else failed. The battle that should have never happened is, at its root, a story about what happens when preparation collapses into assumption. Preparation is not paranoia, knowledge is not pessimism. The forgotten fieldcraft of history is not an obsession with the past, it is an investment in the future. Every skill those soldiers improvised in the mud is a skill that waits to be learned, practiced, and passed on. The trenches were their classroom, your backyard, your local woodland, your next camping trip. These are yours. If this episode added something to your understanding of history, survival, or the deep connection between the two, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles so you never miss what's next. Share this video with someone who values bushcraft, military history, or self-reliance. The knowledge these soldiers earned with their lives deserves to be passed on. Don't let it be forgotten. Fieldcraft Chronicles, because the past still has something to teach us.